It's so amazing to be together once again. It's so amazing that we got to all meet up live in real life. And I guess we'll sing and dance at the end. But I feel like singing and dancing because what could have not been
Anything.
ended up being. So I think that's a lesson in life. Sometimes we're with our children, with our relationships, and you're like, should I, shouldn't I? Yes, no, maybe so, but you go for it. And even though it's a little hard for you, and even though you don't feel like it, and even if it's, you feel like they don't deserve it, and even whatever, like, you then give into it. You push yourself a little, you say a prayer, Hashem, give me the strength to do this. And by miracle, after the fact and you do it, you're like, yes! Thank you, Hashem, that I said yes to this moment. To be with my family, to be with my children, to be with, my loved ones. And so today, the title of this class is Compassionate Parenting and also Collaborative Problem Solving, which is, in short, I call it collaborative.
Anyone wants any tea? I put the
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi, for everything. So I'll give you a little background here. Sometimes I want to stop the world and everything I'm doing and just focus on this. But thank you, Hashem, so many people are doing it. There's Avi Fishoff. There's Dr. Ross Green. There's just so much out there, really, really, and it's amazing information. We are going to cover today a little bit. Explosive Child by Dr. Ross Green. Then this is the same. Adolf Faber, Elaine Mazish. There's a lot of Torah knowledge, teaching everything what has to do with parenting. So I feel like there's a lot out there. But if I should just say one sentence, and if we didn't continue, all those things do not help when your animal soul is on fire. Meaning, you can learn something. It's amazing. You're inspired in the moment. But in the heat of the moment, when someone's acting a certain way, and your ego and your animal soul and your intense fire starts to creep up because you didn't nourish your soul, information can go in one ear and out the next. I read so many books. First of all, master's degree in marriage and family counseling, bachelor's degree in child development, 8 years of learning, a lot of books, Jewish as well as like secular. Zero. And you know how many people came to me and said, I did this course and I did that. I'm like, yeah, and I went to this, you know how much I'd pay? 10,000 for that? The moment the child does this, and it's in all relationships, but especially you're like shocked to the core. And I remember as a child being like shocked, seeing how relationship can go like really funky. And I remember feeling shocked when for how many years I didn't have a baby, and I would look at other people and how they treated their children. Shocked. And saying like, I don't have children, you have children, and how they're so innocent. Look how beautiful. Look at their eyes. Yelling, pinching, and worse. Until Chassidus came and helped me put the missing piece of the puzzle. And we've been doing that this whole retreat. So now and you can catch up with all the other classes that we did. Those of you who are out there, some of the classes we did were repeats, not exactly, but they're on my, yournewheights.com, my YouTube, my Brain Chain channel. And that is prayer is the foundation, and learning Torah is the foundation of nourishing your soul, giving your godly soul the freedom to then use the information, hopefully, that you're going to acquire today. So if you're just thinking, oh, I'm gonna have this class, or I'm gonna like keep reviewing this, trust me, I reviewed parenting classes, all kinds, again, to have the merit of a child. Nothing. And I'm not stupid. And I'm not heartless. I feel pain. I feel people's struggles. And yet, nothing. And I was going crazy almost. Like, how could it be? And some of the secular information out there will make you feel crazy. Back then, maybe not so much now, but 30 years ago or 33 years ago when I was in college, if you have a dysfunctional child, there's something dysfunctional in the family. And you're like, wait a minute. Because fast forward 8 years, and like, wasn't happening. I don't think I was dysfunctional. I actually was doing almost everything to the book and better in some ways. And yet, there was certain interesting experiences that you see in the children, and you're like, you self-doubt. You do feel it's your fault. That's what you've been trained to think. You must be dysfunctional if something's going wrong. Come Chassidus, and it teaches us that tzaddikim had Esav. Tzaddikim had Ishmael. Rishayim had tzaddikim. Avram came from a Rasha. You learn in Chassidus that you look and learn that the soul comes into the world as is, and yes, if you have holy intimacy, yeah, you're giving it greater levushim, greater like certain qualities that will make it easier for them to overcome their soul. But the soul is the soul, and it has nothing to do with you. It's going to come down. You'll be maybe like sorry menu, and you'll, God forbid, may see some kind of behaviors that you're like. So first of all, you have to not let it get you down. You have to not let it take it to heart. And that's like the tallest order ever. But if you take it too much to heart, and you care too much in a sense, and you take it personally, and you get eaten up by their dysfunction, quote unquote, and then you feel dysfunctional because of it, and you feel self-hate, or you're so needy of them and their love of you that you then, become a little squirmy-ish and not so, wise-minded and with an understanding heart and dealing with them, then you could also be off balance and say yes and yes and yes to everything, and then all of a sudden, who was it that said yes and yes and yes? David HaMelech to his son Avshalom. And who did Avshalom turn out to be? A murderer. David HaMelech. His own son. We have to take these lessons to heart so that we don't break. That's the first step. Because if we don't do that, we're done. It's just a war going on in the house. Second thing is the difficulty of seeing someone else treat your child like you don't want them to be treated. And then the ego and the hurt because they're not listening to your advice, that it shouldn't be done that way. And then you're in a state of shock, despair, even almost mourning. And then that can really get you so upset that you end up fighting in front of the children in the name of protecting them. You want your children to love God, respect your spouse. Even though you might think that it's not thing that you can do. If you want your children to respect you, respect your spouse. If you want your children to respect their brothers and sisters, respect them. You got to be the example. And there's a war going on because there's a zillion thoughts roaming in your head. Like, what should I do? Not this. But if I don't do that, you are so tense that it's so easy to just lose your footing in the matter and then just emotionally have diarrhea of the mouth and saying things that are just not going to be to the advantage of your position of raising a legion of God-fearing children. And a key ingredient in dealing with children, and that's why you saw the title, it's compassion on them. You have to constantly remember, what was it like when you were a child? Did you like when they did that to you? So many parents forget somehow. Don't you remember how hard it was to be a child? I remember. Also teachers, don't you remember what it was to be a student and be picked on and shamed in class? And yet you see it again and again and again. Why? Because the animal soul, the ego. And the only way to tame that animal soul, the only way to have the upper hand on it, and eventually convert it from an enemy to an ally, to allow your godly soul to be nourished by learning and praying and meditation. Then you can tap into not the lower base self, but the mindful self, the understanding heart self. And always taking slow steps before any action is taken. If your heart is beating and you are tense, wait till you take a deep breath, wait till a good night's sleep, wait till a Shabbos meal, when all the phones are off, when all the Wi-Fi energy of everyone being on their phones. Then, in a creative and wise way, always then the next step is collaborative parenting. Bring the collaboration with them in solving the problem that just happened. There are so many exciting stories in all these books, but I'm just going to touch upon a few of them. Imagine a child who's in the car, jumped to the front seat, and says, I want to drive, I want to drive. Everyone's rushing. And the mother can act in two ways. She can say, you know better than that. Get in the back seat. Shame the child. Raise her voice even. No, I don't want. Pull the child. Threaten. Do a lot of different stuff that just won't work, because kids dig their heels when you dig yours. Hashem says nobody likes to be commanded what to do. That's why we're the chosen. He gives us choices. That's the chosen word. He doesn't want to be commanding. He wants to give you free choice, so you'll decide. And actually, science does prove that the brain can't handle negative commands. So you have to say things in a positive way. Like, instead of, don't jump on the couch, you say, couches are made for sitting. There's a trampoline. Go jump there. They'll run. I hope. Faster. But the no, you can't, they dig their heels in the ground, and I'll show you, I don't want to listen. So the case is, she's in the front seat of the car, everyone's rushing, and you have to use humor You have to use drama. You have to use different tools of the trade and help her with you be in collaboration of what to do. So for instance, you could say, oh my goodness, I wish you could drive. I'm so tired of driving. I hate driving. Here's the magic wand. Make you an adult with a driver's license. What should we do? We don't have a driver's license for you. She'll say, oh, you're right, I don't have a driver's license. I wish I could drive. Mommy, I can't wait to drive you around. Maybe that will be a response. So many times I did these different things with my own children and saw how powerful this, and in camp when I work with children, I work a lot with children, and it's mind-blowing when you know how to include them in the solution. Now sometimes the solution will not be good, but you'll say something like, that is an idea, but I don't think it can work right now. You know why? Because, gosh, it's very late. And I really want to have story time with you. Don't you want to have story time with you? We just don't have time. Would you, or if they have to go to bed now, and you tell them a choice, another key component is give them a choice. You can brush your teeth first or put your pajamas on first. Which one? So you're not commanding them. It's time to go to sleep. Come on, why don't you give them choices. Many times when we talk about the digging of the heels in the ground, we talk about what's going on in their very tense brain. We always talk about Miriam Yerushalmi always talk about we're always so stressed, right? And so our brain is so stressed. It's like, 10 or 15 different radio stations on one time. And if that's happening to us, that's happening to them. And sometimes there are children that are very poor sensory, they have noise affects them, what they're wearing. There's so many different things that can really affect them. And they can end up becoming in this vapor lock, like a car that just is overheated. And a car, I actually called you what's wrong with the car? So sometimes the car is so overheated, you go like this and you pump the gas and you'll go, oh! It's so overheated. It just has to or the cell phone happened, our overheated cell phone today wasn't working. Just overheated, it's not working. So kids' brains get very overheated much quicker than ours. They're on overload, stress. So you trying to coerce, you trying to even try to give them rewards or they can't hear it. If they're having a tantrum, their reasoning, their rationality is gone. They need to calm down. So instead, train the child before these incidents. Deep breathing, give him the techniques so that he'll catch himself not having that meltdown. Teach them how to visualize when you feel very stressed. Go to a place you love to go to, the beach, the park, or the circus of the last memory of Disneyland, whatever. Help them with the tools so they can help themselves before it even gets there. But if they got to that vapor lock state, then you just help them as best you can. It helps me when I'm like this. I feel so bad for you. I sometimes also, get so, nervous and upset, and I take deep breaths, and I go to an imaginary place with my imaginary friend, whatever, what they like. And it's amazing. Just today, we were in the park. And this group of nannies were with many group of children. One girl was crying and crying, and I waited to see, maybe she didn't hear. You saw how I waited. I didn't want to interfere, but it was a while, and no one paid attention to her. And she didn't want to hear from me. But I tried every trick of the trade. I tried the dancing. I tried to go peekaboo, and then I said, I'm going to throw you kisses. And then all of a sudden, did you see how, I wish I had that on video. She was like, bye-bye, bye-bye. She was hysterical. Such in a meltdown. And all the others, no, she just wants her mommy. No one was paying attention to this baby. I feel bad for this baby. Whoever, and I want to like almost put it on Facebook to take the picture of this baby. That, do you know that like, oh, they're just saying she misses your mommy. That's a whole nother category of like campaign I want to do, but just one person. So the child, just like that child was crying. Most parents may think their child is defiant on purpose, manipulative on purpose. No, they're human. They have feelings. They're overwhelmed. If we have that kind of attitude that they're this manipulative and they're like these mosquitoes trying to always get us, you know, and win over us, we have to debunk these theories. They're not oppositional. They're not non-compliant. They're not doing it on purpose. They're not doing it to try to get attention. Not because they just want attention. They're human. They feel. They want love. Oh, they're just trying to get attention. Well, yeah. Don't we try to get attention from our husband? From Hashem? So many times, like, you could see the face of these people saying it, like as if they really believe they're purposely doing it to get you annoyed. Well, yeah, the Alter Rebbe says they're all Yetzer Hara. Yeah, they don't have Chochmah and Bina Das till they are Bar and Bar Mitzvah. Just a little comes out. I mean, we with a huge brain compared to them, and what Yetzer Haras we have. And how many years of experience of trying to fight that Yetzer Hara. They're not going to have so much to be able to fight that Yetzer Hara. So many times a situation arises, and again it's no, 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 because you're so annoyed that they're trying to defy you with it. Greatest sentence, even also for your husbands. Yes, but not now. Yes, we will go to the park before Mashiach comes. Okay, maybe not today, but yes, we'll go to the park after we eat our lunch or, you know. Yes. Always a yes, but not now. They'll hear it better. If you say no right away, oh my gosh. They'll be so upset. You're not listening. Or, oh, I know you so want to go to the park. Me too. Let's just like imagine we're there right now, but we can't go now. Someone's coming from Israel. We have to be here to, you know, we'll go together with them. With a smile, with a happy attitude that we're going to go. Not like, no, leave me alone. You said it 10 times. I don't want to go there. Just so much energy and auras and voice and drama. Okay, so you're not so dramatized. Take my time, your one-on-one drama class. Like do it, even if it's not you. You know, fake it till you make it. And all of a sudden you start enjoying being a drama queen. So we got to take proper steps to like really get the children more easily able to participate in unlocking their own potential. So, and the CPS model, which Dr. Ross Green talks about, which is the collaborative parenting style, is a sure way to get them to be more compliant. And yes, it's a very daunting task, and there's so many obstacles in the way because sometimes you have a spouse that doesn't want your drama. Sometimes they have their way. It's very tricky. But don't be defiant. Have the conversations before. Have discussions with classes like these. Read books together. Do things to open each other's perspectives of how the animal soul takes over. And that you don't want to hurt their feelings and get too bossy over them. But let's develop a sign language when things are like a little funky and the person is going a little bit more with their Yetzer Hara. Like, let's give sign language. Because you're seeing, let's say, the spouse not behave as well as you want them. Maybe this is behind the children, so the children don't see you. Like, like, figure it out. There's ways. Instead of like a bulldozer putting your 2 cents in the matter, shaming your husband or your spouse, and it just becomes a gasoline being poured on a burning fire. So again, these things will help the children become more adherent and more compliant. They will not be as stressed out. They will be able to feel the care and the compassion. So empathy on their struggle will strengthen the bond between you and your child. It'll help them realign themselves to the path that you want to direct them in. We have to start as best we can to take these baby steps. We have to realize that there's so much to do in a day, and there's such a to-do list, and it's like, I gotta get them to bed, or I gotta get them to eat, I gotta get them to the whatever it is, and then the stress takes over, and they feel it. They feel that you don't want to be with them, that you want to rush them to bed already. Smile when you're in the bath, tub, in the bathroom when they're taking a bath. Like, say, oh, I wish we could just stay in this bathtub. I love playing with the ducky. Quickie. Right, but we have to go. But you know what? We'll have time in bed to stories. Instead of, you see it all the time. Rush. We're in a rushed world. Even in the pandemic, where we had nowhere to go, right? There was still a schedule of pressure of time. Like, how? When they do fail, and when it's hard for them, and you're seeing them fail, and you want to help them get out of that stuck mode, failure management, rule number 1, normalize the situation. Let's say they come home with an F on something, or D. Say, you know what, it was so hard for me to study, and I didn't do well in school either. You didn't do well maybe in, I don't know, one of the subjects, rock science, I don't know, something, I'm sure. Something that was difficult for you, even white light. Like, I remember I struggled and I had to study again, I have to study again. That will help banish their insecurity. Now, also give them hope that they can do it too. Because if they know you couldn't really do it either, and you're doing it, then they will really feel like, oh, mommy had a hard time with, wait, she's a mathematician today. She had a hard time in math? I mean, if I had a hard time remembering one sentence, and like every year after, even 40 and 45 and 50 and 55. And compared to when I was even a teenager, and even when I couldn't remember one sentence. So I don't have to lie. How difficult it was for me to study. And what my grades were like for history and certain subjects. And couldn't remember things. And now I remember things. So, but if you have to lie, white lie. Normalize their challenge. Sit with them. Feel it, how difficult it is for them. Now, definitely, you have to normalize it for yourself also. Because if you feel like a failure, maybe talk to your mom and how difficult it was for her to be a mom. Like, it's very easy to feel like a failure. And you can feel so insecure. And you can feel like that you're such a not good parent. And especially if you have a child who's lagging and who is like sensory sensitive and so many other things. So then, lots of times we label ourselves. There's labels like passive permissive. There's a problem. There's inconsistent parenting. And there's so many, labels that can make you spin of like what you're doing wrong. My dear soul sisters and soul brothers, don't be a fault finder in yourself. Be a virtue finder and do the same for your children. We're all in the making. We're not human beings. We're all in the making, and it's a process. So, Dr. Ross Greens explains that the parent's empathy is an access code to the child's brain. Don't we learn that in Chassidus? Chassidus teaches us a pasuk that says, LeYaakov asher pada es Avraham. Yaakov in the schematic sfirot is representing Tiferes, compassion. And we're taught compassion has the power to redeem. Pada is in Hebrew redeem. The Avraham in the other, meaning the love of Hashem of the other, the soul of the other. They're entrapped. So having compassion really helps bring out, it's like a key to open. Remember we learned Aaron Cohen was always honoring everybody, even the wicked ones, and they became the righteous ones. Bruria's husband, was told by Bruria, pray for the wicked of the town. Have compassion on them. And all of a sudden they started transforming. So, remember we were talking about the vapor lock, but in one of the pictures of the book, I have it here in very small, but we were at the beach, and there was no lifeguards where we were, but there's a picture of I don't know if you see a boy drowning. I can show it to you later, and it says here that kids can be drowning in the sea of frustration. And in this picture, the lifeguard is like pretty much like telling the parents, no, I'm letting him, be there so he'll learn how to swim. But he's drowning. We were just talking, who was I talking about today? Where they said, oh, let them scream to develop their lungs, or who was that?
The culture.
Yes, the culture. Like, oh no, they have to go through that, because they have to learn it, otherwise you're going to spoil them, or there's so many scientific research when you let the baby cry, or what damage it does to the brain. And even in the Holocaust, where people didn't have enough, mothers to feed them, they were just propped up like this, and they became not only like mentally delayed and disabled, but died. Because there wasn't that touch, there wasn't that emotion of like connection with the parent.
Yep.
Failure to thrive. So he actually talks about the $1 million paycheck that a person is going to give someone to be able to shoot baskets like Michael Jordan?
Yes.
I don't know, is that a basketball player? I think I remember. No way. You'll give them a zillion rewards, but if they can't be, if they're just like 4'2", and they're maybe a midget, or maybe they have problems like this. I mean, like they just can't. You'll give them $1 million trying to persuade, trying to reward. I'll give you a reward. They can't. And it doesn't work. It just frustrates them. So you have to be very careful of the expectations and the level that you're demanding of someone if it's not their level, and they can't. And by the way, I gave this seminar, and I have it all in sheets written up, And I thought I brought it with the suitcase. It's in New York. If you're in New York, knock on my daughter's door. It's there. Piles of this. We gave this over in Nefesh International, training therapists how to train parents to deal with their children. So thank you Hashem that I still have it, and I still have all it on my computer, so I can, anyone who's interested, it's all written down very nicely in bullet points. Baruch Hashem, you can email me, Miriam, that's Reaching New Heights, MY, my initial, Miriam Yerushalmi, MY, @gmail.com, and I will have it sent to you. So, so we have to really understand that sometimes we need to enlist help from other people in our family. You know, there's these women martyrs. No, I can do it, but she's going to sleep at 3, 4 in the morning, then barely being able to wake up. It's just, get your family involved. And if not, call your local school who has organizations that have their teenage high school girls coming to the school, or get other social services in the community. Call your rabbi, I'm having a really hard time. Is there someone in the community that's, people want to volunteer and they have nowhere to volunteer? They're bored, they're lonely. There is a way if you can't enlist your family. So we have to try our best to get as much help as possible. Again, we were on our walk today, and someone was saying how she's here with her as a grandma, and 4, because we were watching 10 kids with 2 nannies or whatever it was. And we know when we're just one-on-one, we need this one and we need that one. We need 4 people sometimes to help us, and so we have to also realize that there's no quick fix. We have to have a reality check, and I always say, babies don't crawl and then go to running so quickly. So too in their other motor developmental stages and mental development. We have to realize that our position is not to fix them. We're not going to fix them. We just have to fix ourselves and be the example. That's the key. Show them by example how you love them, how you cherish them, how you them. Then they bond with you. And this is from Tanya. In Tanya it says that it's a very interesting example of how, I don't know if I should say it, but yeah, I think I'm going to say it. But just like to arouse a woman to be able to make her ready for pregnation, so that, there's words of love said, there's this, that, then she gets into that, then she's opening up, also physically, and then the sperm can make its way, because it's now open, it's a process, and then the bonding, and then the production of that bond. So too with relationships. The bonding, we did Malchus today, and the foundation, Yesod, remember the Yesod of the Tanya dance that we did today. The foundation is the bonding first with that child. Then be the teacher, the preacher, the rabbi, the psychologist, the therapist, When you bond with them, the Tanya says, then they want to listen to you. Then they're ready. Then they can absorb. Then they can model after you. They've done studies. Genius, PhD level people. And they're teaching and they're so amazing, blah, 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 blah. But they're cold. They don't care about the children. They're just blah, 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 blah. Oh, they're geniuses. But they don't bond to the child. The child doesn't want to listen. Then there's more of a simple teacher. Says, but they love him. He's down with them. He's into them. He's smiling at them. He's not trying to prove he's a teacher. I know this and shut up and sit down. God forbid, And they I have to say, we had, I told that story of the autistic child that I didn't know was autistic in the whole story. And because of that experience of having, misjudged the situation and treated that child as if they were normal, after that, I started a program in Israel. And I integrated the Down syndrome and the CP child and the autistic children. And I remember that some of the very low-class children not low-class, but from low socioeconomic, that's what I meant to say, that parents were working till 7, so they came to my programs until 7 in the evening. They had dinner, they had this, and our program won awards because these children who were failing became top students. And it was mostly love. They got love. I taught them this, I taught them that. We went exercising, we went hiking, all these things. And they were looking at me like if I sat down with them and helped them with their homework, and I did. It was the love and the bonding, and that just made them feel so free, that they weren't so stressed out, and that they ended up, and we were in the Memshala governmental office getting an award for having helped the socioeconomic children of the community that didn't have anywhere to go and got this help. And I'm telling you, we did not teach them what they were excelling in. It was the love. So another very important concept is to maintain coherence. We have to be the role model and be coherent. How can we demand that they be coherent if we're all out of whack? If we're raising our voice, if we're showing them that we're nervous and we're not stoic and grounded and in harmony with our faculties of our soul, when we're coherent, then it will reverberate within the child's consciousness, and eventually it'll articulate itself in the child's behavior. We cannot have a double standard. Oh, you the adult are not coherent, and yet you're demanding them to be coherent. Not fair. Just the other day, weren't you not so whatever with your spouse? Just the other day, weren't you not like your best self? And you're an adult? So how can we demand and expect and punish and berate and shame and push and shove the agenda that they should this and they should that? Normalize the situation, make them feel that it's really normal for a child to be that way, and explain it to them. Yabi Yitzhahara, words of wisdom in a soft and loving tone of voice. Because if you are inflexible, inflexibility plus inflexibility equals meltdown. If you're digging your heels into the ground and you're commanding and demanding, they'll do the same. And then it becomes an explosive child having a meltdown, or a stubborn, or whatever you want to call it. And this is a beautiful statement by Dr. Ross Green. He says, in a perfect world, when frustrated, the child would respond with something like this. You see, Mommy and Dad, I have this little problem. You guys and a lot of other people are constantly asking me to shift from agenda A to agenda B, and I'm not very good at it all. In fact, when you ask me to do that, I get frustrated. I have trouble thinking clearly, and then I get even more frustrated. Basically, I just can't do it. I can't multitask like you want me to. And then it's so overbearing and so difficult that I begin to explode. And then, after that, I really have a tough time regaining my coherence. If the child could say that, he would. He can't express what he's going through. But that's what you have to hear with your heart. Definitely, there are other factors that can cause them to be even more at risk. Some people they need to eat every so often. Most children. Maybe they're hangry because they didn't get enough eat. Maybe they're not getting enough sleep. Maybe they're too much on technology and you don't even know it. How many clients that I've had, and when finally I talk to their child, 12-year-olds having these phones, don't go to sleep till 4 in the morning, and they're on their phones, and the parents don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to wake up at 7. They're a mess. So there's so many other factors, sociological factors. So we have to identify and be more aware of the specific situations that could be triggering this child to have an even more explosive behavior. Sometimes they're super sensitive to sugar, although every child is sensitive to sugar. That's a fact. And how much sugar we are giving them. In the shuls, in the bar mitzvahs, in the weddings, in the this, in the that, in their snacks, in the ketchups, in the mayo, in the everything. In the strangest of places, you're like, sugar in that? Why do they have to put sugar in that? Sugar is like cocaine to the brain. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and doesn't get digested and purified. Because normal food goes here and there and there and there and there. The good stuff is extracted, and then the other stuff gets wasted in the waste area, and then it goes to the brain. Sugar goes whoop to the brain. Doesn't get processed, refined. It already did all the refining processing with so many chemicals, and those chemicals go to their brain. How many children with ADHD, I just told the parents, get them off of sugar. Some children had major teenage girls who had major menopausal, not menopausal, in the sense that when you have your period, you don't want it anymore. Oh, gosh, but I meant PMS. And as soon as they got off of sugar, no more PMS and no disastrous mood change. So, oh gosh, there's so much more and so much more, but Dr. Ross Green says as follows. In a user-friendly environment, which is the next important, very important key ingredient, adults read the warning signals and take quick action when these signals are present. Kind of like before their meltdown happens. So if you know they like to help you in the kitchen, cooking, and you know they're playing somewhere else, and in the end they're going to come, and then you're not going to be able to because it's so... Create a user-friendly situation in the kitchen. Make it like they have their own miniature bowl and their own miniature things. This is what I used to do with my children. Even when they were not even able to barely sit properly, I would put suction cup, bath things in the sink, and I bought downsized things that were plastic. And you see those of you who know, I don't know, my son loves cooking now. And I get a lot of his good food because of it. I didn't plan it that way, but the benefit of doing that. But there's things that you could do to make your environment user-friendly to attract them to want to do it at the right time, and know that if they're going to come later and you're not going to want them and it's going to be a fight, and preempt the situation. Say, I know you're going to want to help me later, and later is not going to be a good time. So you have a choice. Either now you come and help me when I can do it in a relaxed way, enough time to clean up the mess, or you don't have to come. But then later, it's your choice. Do things that will help them, avoid the situation. So we have to be creative. We have to also try our best to love them when they are most unlovable. Write that down. That's really a key to all relationships. When you love them when they're lovable, big deal. When you love them when they are most unlovable, that's a big deal. That's a real big deal for them. Even if you have to fake it till you make it. Even if you have to fake that loving hug. Whatever you have to do. Because insincere gestures will inevitably lead to sincere gestures. Now, isn't that from our Torah? Lo lishma, then it'll happen lishma. See what's going on in the world? All this that is in here is from our Torah. Everything that we mentioned. We have to try to have reflective listening. And there's a diagram here. There's so many diagrams. I'm not showing you all the diagrams, but this is a very neat diagram. Again, this is in the diagrams that you'll get in the email. And we are starting to work on my parenting book. So all these books, one day, and all this information is going to be, and you can go again, yournewheights.com. There's like at least 10 parenting classes there, and more on Torah Anytime and other places. Slowly more and more are coming onto the website. So a way to be empathic is to have reflective listening. They're saying something that they're going through and it was very painful to them. So you say, wow, I'm sure that was so painful. Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't say, oh, you'll get over it. You know, sometimes something happens to you and you say, oh, come on, it was not such a big deal. You're like really hurting and they're like really discounting your feelings. It like feels really weird, doesn't it? But we do it all the time to children. We see other people doing it all the time to children. Positive results will happen. There's going to be a stronger bond. They're going to have an emotional release. They will feel supported and validated. And then your feedback will match their emotional pain. And then they will be able to more freely release it. So, a common situation, like a child is crying hysterically that they're afraid of the dark. And the parent will say, you're 10 years old. Your 5-year-old brother goes up in the dark. You can do it. You shame them. You belittle them. There's nothing wrong. There's no monster there. You're discounting their experience. They're not going to know how to validate themselves. Oh, it's not so scary. You're a big girl. A reflective listening response would be, I know it could be scary. Some people, are scared of bugs. Some people are scared of the dark. I was scared of cats, whatever it is. Lie, white lie. Make them feel validated and say, it's okay, we'll go together. But if you see a cat, forewarn me. Drama, make it light, make it funny, but feel their pain. Be with them. Use humor as best you can. Again, this is my best. This was like 10 years ago and it was still famous now today. Silence is golden. Sometimes no words. Just listen. And sometimes parents are uncomfortable with the silence. We've got to get to the proficiency of silence, the art of silence, whatever you want to call it. I think, I know a lot of us are still in a jet lag mode. There's so much more. Maybe we have to do round 2, but it's up to you. I'm fine to continue, but I know some of you are 3 hours ahead, have a flight. Yeah. Okay. So, again, I can email you the rest. Yeah, there's a lot. So, I will, I think we got a lot already. I think, tomorrow will be a new day. Especially after being together, bonding together, loving together. We'll share that light and that love to our family members when we go home tomorrow. not going to be easy. The hardest part of my job, it's not a job, it's my labor of love. Reaching New Heights, my@gmail.com. The hardest part is, okay, we're not saying goodbye. See you later. But thank God for Zoom and Facebook, and we'll be together, and in a more like incredibly deeper level, please God. So I pray for you, my dear soul sisters, that you will be lamplighters. You will really let go and let God. Be at peace with the process, in everything. And try your best to keep filling your mind and your heart with love, peace, and joy.
Amen. Thank you.
And we'll dance. On our way, we're all going together on the wings of Mashiach. Techaf umiyad mamish. Wow. Thank you, Hashem, for this opportunity that we had to be together for this long. I just can't tell you. Thank you, all of you out there. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, that I said yes now. Because this retreat getaway was almost not happening. So I'm so super thankful that I can't even tell you. All right, we'll see you soon. What's next on the program? Tomorrow night, Chayelo. There's a Farbrengen on Zoom. I'll send you the links. Thursday night, in person in my house, we have sushi and barbecue and a really special Chayelo party in person in my home. Maybe even night swimming. I like night swim. It's really nice. It's not so cold. But and then after that, I think there's more to come. But you'll see. I think it's a Hillim festival, and then the 10 days of tshuva. We're going to do a Tashlich tshuva party, a Tashlich beach tshuva party with singers, and that's going to happen at hopefully Jill's house. Bezrat Hashem.
Wow.
Yes, and we'll keep you informed for the rest. Any questions for later? We have a lot of jet lag people here. Okay.